Today I want to show you 5 basic, easy transitions that you can do in Premiere Pro if you're just starting out as a video editor. So let's jump straight in. Alright, so the first transition is called a cross dissolve. The most basic transition you will ever learn. Some people associate this transition with cheap 90s transitions from terrible movies and videos, but it can be useful at times. So let me show you how it's done. So the first way you can do a cross dissolve is go to your effects panel and search cross dissolve, and you drag that onto your footage. And as you drag it in, you'll see a little area appear in between your two clips, which shows you where the cross dissolve is going to occur. So let me just show you what this looks like. We have this video and quite a harsh cut between the one and the next. But if we had a cross dissolve on and now we play through, you have a gentle fade going between the one and the other. Quick tip, another easy way to do this is if you hover in between the two clips and this little icon appears with this red arrow, you right click and you say apply default transitions. That will add a cross dissolve onto your footage really quickly. Alright, our second transition is called the match cut. The match cut is a really useful transition where you're able to finish a certain clip and match the last frame with the first frame of the new clip. The best way for a match cut to work is if the camera angle and the positioning of your subject are pretty much the same. Otherwise this won't really work. You'll find it really hard to work. So this one I have somebody running and someone running, same camera angle, it's nice and low to the ground from the same position, so the match cut should work in this instance. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to swap these around quickly, and what you need to do is just scrub through to a point where you want the footage to cut. So something that sticks out, something that's very obvious. So I think this point would work because I can find in my next clip the frame that looks pretty much like that. So I'm going to cut right here and I'm going to delete the end of this clip, and then I'm going to look for the same frame that looks like this in my next clip. So I'm going to scrub through at that moment. That pretty much looks like more or less the same. And if you play through now, that's pretty good. That's a decent match. It looks like you're going from the one into the other as they cut into one another. Sometimes what you have to do with a match cut is you need to take your second piece of footage and lift it above and drag it over just by one frame and then drop your opacity down. If you want to get it absolutely perfect, sometimes you have to scale this one up, drop it down a bit in order for it to match. If you can see what I'm trying to do, it won't work in this case because if I rotate it that much, the footage is going to look a bit funny. So I think it was fine as is. But just remember that if you do need to match these things up perfectly, push the second layer above, take it one frame across, go to your last frame, drop the opacity of your top clip and line them up in order for them to look good. And then all you do is just drop it back and remember to push your opacity back up and it should look pretty good. But I think as this does a good job. Alright, this third transition is called a fake blur transition. This is where we're going to try and replicate somebody pulling the focus out and then starting the new clip, pulling the focus back into the clip. But the problem is we don't have footage where somebody pulled the focus out and back in. So we can recreate this using this technique. And what you need to do is you need to go in between your two clips where they meet and go 3 frames backwards. So use your left arrow button and go 1, 2, 3 frames to the left. And what you're going to do is you're going to add an effect called a Gaussian blur. I'm going to add that on and we need to animate this effect in. Actually, I'm going to go 1, 2, 5 frames back. I'm going to animate 0 blurriness. I'm going to go just 2 frames forward and push this thing up to 99 blurriness. I'm going to zoom in here and push this all the way to the end. Make sure that your repeat edge pixels box is checked, because if it's unchecked, you get this black border around your image. And we need to do the opposite on this side. So we go forward 5 frames using the right arrow key, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and add the Gaussian blur effect. This time it's going to end blurriness at 0. If you move to the left, we want to start it at 99 blurriness, push that keyframe all the way to the end. But there's one thing that you need to do in order to sell this effect is we need to play at the scale. So let's start on the first clip where our first animation for our blurriness starts. How you do that is if you come down to your blurriness keyframes here, this arrow, go to next keyframe, it'll move in between your keyframes. So I know now we are starting at our keyframe at 0. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to animate my scale up. I'm going to go forward a bit, and I'm going to push this thing up to 1, it's probably too much here. Just a little bit. Let's go to 110 and I'll push that all the way to the end. And then you need to do the same, which is the opposite way on this one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Animate our scale at 100 and it started at 110 and push that all the way to the left. So now if we play it back from here, so you can play around with those values and shorten it, lengthen it. It might be a little bit too much scale, I think, so you could probably drop the scale just a little bit. You need small increments just to make it look real, but I think that's pretty good and you get the idea of. All right, our fourth transition is called the slide transition. So this is a really popular effect with YouTube channels. You probably see this quite a bit, and it uses the effect called transform. So I'm going to highlight both of my clips, go to the effects panel and look for transform. and drag that on, and it'll add it to both of the clips. What you need to do is go to the middle of your clips and move 7 frames over to the left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Actually, I'm gonna make it 10. 8, 9, 10. Then I'm gonna push my first video up, drag my second one just underneath it, and go to your top video layer. Now we need to animate the position, because this basically what it's gonna do, it's gonna push our video off to the side. So we can choose any direction, but we'll start our animation here. Zoom in a bit, and let's push it all the way to the left. So we keep pushing our position across till it's out of the screen. Push that animation all the way to the right. And what you need to do here is unclick this use composition shutter angle. And you need to change this to quite a high number. This is gonna give us motion blur in order to solve this effect. I'm going to put something high like 250, and you can see there it adds some sort of motion blur. So now when you play through the clip, just a very useful transition, especially if you're trying to keep people's attention with videos with lots of animation and lots of B-roll. This is a good one to use. And if you add a little bit of sound effect, like a whoop on top of that, it could look really cool. All right, on our last transition is the speed ramp transition. I have a full video on speed ramping, but I'm going to show you the basics of how this transition works. Okay, so we have our 2 clips on the timeline. Right click on each clip, go down to show clip keyframes, time remapping and speed, and do the same on the other clip. What that's going to do, drag this down so you can see nicely. It creates a line. Basically, this is showing you the speed of the clip. If you click your pen tool or P on your keyboard, it allows you to create points within that line. If you go back to V or your selection tool and you drag this line up, it's going to make the speed of the clip faster. And if you drag it down, it's going to make it much slower. And basically, the points are where the speed is going to break, where it's going to start getting faster or slower. Let me show you how that works. So I've created my point with my P, and I go to my selection tool with V, and I'm going to drag this one up. And as I drag it up, it shows you at the bottom how the percentage of how fast you are now creating your video. I'm going to push that all the way up to something like, I don't know, 1000%, just to show you. And let me zoom in. Currently, it's going to go from 100% all the way up to 1000% in an instant. So if we play through, it goes, as you can see there, it goes from slow to really fast. This is probably too fast. I'm going to take it down to like 500%. But if I drag this out, it's going to increase the length of that transition. So it's going to be a lot smoother. There we go. So I'm going to drag it out, make it a little bit shorter. If you click in the middle, you can pull on this blue thing and it smooths out your transition. I'm going to speed this up a bit and I'll play through. And on that point where he hits and all of the water comes up, I'm going to transition at that moment. And we're going to find the point where he does that on this clip, which is over there. And we're going to click P, create a point, and V on the left, which is your speed to the left of that point. And we're going to drag that and match it. So it is more or less 500, I think, or 600%. And drag this to the left so that it's smooth. Click in the middle and make a nice curve. So we want it to start where he's hitting and then slow down. So you're going to have to play around until we get to that point. As you can see on the left, it shows you a preview of where your clip is going to start as you're moving it along. So I want it to start at that point. So if I let go, that is where it's going to start, and I can delete this section, put them together, and now what you should have is a nice quick transition from the one into the other. You can play with your speeds, you can increase these, you can make them as fast as you want, as slow as you want, but that gives you an idea of how to do speed ramp transition. Those are 5 easy transitions for anybody who's starting out in Premiere Pro. Hopefully that helps you guys out as video editors and gives you some tools in your toolbox. If you did, give this video a like, subscribe to the channel. I appreciate it, guys. You can also check out my channel. I've got tons of other videos on tutorials on Premiere Pro and how to grow as an editor. So jump there, check it out. Otherwise, I'll see you guys soon.